Hello and welcome. I'm Katrina Pratt Roebuck, and I am the CEO of Uplifme. Uplifme is a national resource hub that lists social service events happening across the country that addresses social determinants of health and more. We also highlight the great work of community-based organizations doing work here in Philadelphia every day. And so today I have with me Judge Stephanie M. Sawyer, who is a Court of Common Pleas judge in the First Judicial District, presiding in the Criminal Trial Division, and who is also the founder and CEO of the Sentencing Foundation. So, Judge Sawyer, welcome and thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. So, can you tell us, Judge Sawyer, about the Sentencing Foundation and how it serves the public?
Well, it's an interesting mix because the Sentencing Foundation, to understand it best, you have to understand the program I run in my courtroom, right? And so the Sentencing Foundation was created to be the logistical support for a restorative justice program that I created called Resource-Based Sentencing and Supervision. When I hit the bench back in 2014, as a woman of color, I never wanted to be the kind of judge that feeds the beast that is mass incarceration. So when I hit the bench, I knew what I wasn't going to do, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And so from 2014 to 2018, I wanted to figure out how can we do something that would move the needle on mass incarceration and at the same time shrink that huge trust gap that ordinary citizens have with the criminal justice system. So first I had to evaluate in my head, well, what does the system do that maintains mass incarceration? And why do general public individuals, the ordinary citizen, have such mistrust for the judges and the criminal justice system? And then it became very apparent to me when I really looked at the path that most people take when they are ensnared in the criminal justice system, right? Except for specialty courts like mental health court and drug treatment court, which has its own complexities that take longer to get into, and diversion programs. The general path, whether you're in state court or federal court, is that a person will either go to trial and be found guilty, or they'll plead guilty, and then they have to face a sentencing judge. When they face a sentencing judge, typically speaking, the judge will either sentence them probation and off to probation they go, or sentence to incarceration and off to the Department of Correction they go. 97% or so get out, and then off to a parole officer they go. And even after their incarceral period, they may have probation after that, and then off to a probation officer they go. So a judge will sentence somebody, and typically the next time that judge who created the sentence sees the person that they sentenced, it's when a probation or parole officer is so frustrated that they opine revocation, or that person gets a new case or a new conviction. And so under the model of generally how our jurisprudence has pretty much worked since the proliferation of mass incarceration in the 80s and 90s, judges only see people to punish them, right? If judges only see people to punish them, well, no wonder there's a big trust gap between citizens and the criminal justice system. And if judges only see people to punish them, that is why we maintain a system of mass incarceration. It's wash, rinse, repeat, and they keep going through the system in the same fashion. And so it was my decision, and I said to myself, I didn't take this job just to punish people. I took the job to help people. And so I figured, how can I best help people is in looking at, any criminologist will tell you that only 10 to 15%, I think it's closer to 10, some people say 15%, but only 10 to 15% of the folks that are ensnared in the criminal justice system are so broken that they're only going to reap havoc on the rest of us no matter what you do. And so that's the reason there's nothing wrong with incarceration. It's mass incarceration. And when you look at those numbers, that suggest that 85% just need help, right? And so that is what resource-based sentencing and supervision is for. Resource-based sentencing and supervision is a system of accountability whereby the sentencing and supervising judge is held accountable to articulate a comprehensive sentence. So if I'm sentencing somebody with 2 possession with intent to deliver in a 10th grade education, I can set my watch till his 3rd. So I need to require them to get their education, to get vocational training, to have options so that all they know how to do is not just selling drugs, right? So you have to create a comprehensive sentence. And since folks in criminal courtrooms don't have money, for every condition in that comprehensive sentence, a resource has to be provided to give them an opportunity to meet that obligation. And critically thereafter, you must have a status listing to check on them, to make sure that the resource is doing what it's supposed to do, to make sure the defendant is doing what he or she is supposed to do, and to make sure that if we need to pivot, or maybe the resource is not a good fit, but that it's for purposes of further fine-tuning the comprehensive plan that has set that person on a path to reimagine their lives. Mm-hmm. So back to the call of your question is, how do we help folks? Well, we help folks that are ensnared in the criminal justice system. We actually hold their hand through a process of how they can reimagine their life. And of course, for those who don't want to, there will be a consequence for them. And so what happens in this program is that we have a network of reentry resources. And so that's the program. I created it from 2014 to 2018. And so by 2018, we had already figured out the name for it, resource-based sentencing and supervision. We had already created a network of reentry resources in the city of Philadelphia. We were already doing those things. So from 2018 to 2020, we saw people reimagining their lives right in front of our eyes. Wow. We saw countless parents in the back of the courtroom with tears in their eyes, mouthing thank you. We saw defendants saying, oh my God, this is the longest I've been out of custody. This is the longest I've been sober. This is the longest I've ever had a job. This is the first time I had an apartment of my own. All of these things that indicate people are really substantively reimagining their lives. And I realized I stumbled upon creating the blueprint for how to shrink the trust gap between ordinary citizens and the criminal justice system. Where in the world do you hear of people that are not on a judge's list running to the courtroom to talk to their judge? Well, it happens to me all the time, right? People say, Judge, I lost that paper that you had. Or, Judge, I called them and they weren't there. Or, Judge, I'm homeless and I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And the people under my supervision, they trust me because they know I care. They know that I'm providing resources and I'm providing problem solving, right? People have problems, and through stress and trauma and lack of a support system and training in that area, they don't have problem solving techniques, right? They become desperate, don't know what to do, and desperate people make really, really bad decisions. And so how we help so in 2020, when I realized that we had created the blueprint on how to shrink that trust gap and also how to move the needle on mass incarceration, then I got this deflated feeling on how well it worked in my courtroom, because I had this great realization hit me, and that is, I'm only one of 20 or 30 judges in criminal court in the city of Philadelphia. The city of Philadelphia is the first judicial district of Pennsylvania, which is one of 197 judicial districts in one state that doesn't include the federal system. Wow. So I could run this program till I'm blue in the face and never have the intended result of touching the needle on mass incarceration or touching the huge problem that is the trust gap between ordinary citizens and the criminal justice system, right? And so at that moment, I realized I needed a nonprofit organization that can act as the logistical support to get it into every criminal courtroom, state and federal. Well, we announced the Sentencing Foundation on September 13, 2022. We obtained our nonprofit status in February of 23, and we have been going about the business of getting it in every courtroom in the United States in order to actually move the needle on mass incarceration. And I'll stop there, because then I could go on to, where we are and how we've gotten there and all that kind of stuff. But that's what we do for the community. It not only helps the defendants that are ensnared in the criminal justice system out of desperation, but it helps the parents. It helps them become that. It helps their parents. It helps their children so that they can become parents, right? It helps the neighborhood. It reduces crime, right? If we're reducing recidivism, we're reducing crime. If we're reducing desperation, the ripple effect is clearly what this the Sentencing Foundation is here to create.
I am so heartened by your work. Having had the privilege of meeting you just a short while ago, knowing that you have a personal commitment to helping people improve their lives and seeing the position that you had, how you could utilize your role in your position to support that work, I think is amazing. And you said so
Thank
much,
you.
but I just want to point out a couple of things. You've created a blueprint, right? You've created a blueprint that can happen all across the country that helps individuals, helps communities, decreases crime, increases trust. I think, I can't think of something more impactful that a judge could do holistically to support a community. So we're just starting this interview, but I want to thank you right now for this amazing work that you do.
It's
And
been a journey.
yeah, yeah. But, it is so important. And you're talking about addressing a lot of the social determinants of health, right? You're
Correct,
talking about
correct.
people having the opportunity to address their basic needs. And then when people are desperate, they may not make the best choices. So you are extending grace and having hope for people in terms of what you've described and the way that I see it. And I think that that is so tremendous. Can you
Thank you.
talk a little bit more about some of the outcomes? You said that people come up to you and they thank you for what you've done. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how that plays out so that people can get a good sense of a person comes to you, you've supported them. What does that journey look like? And when they come back to you, what's the outcomes that you found?
So let me start off by saying this. One of the key redirection that this program and our foundation hopes to usher in a
Mhm.
paradigm shift in
Mm,
how judges sentence and supervise, right? The current system that creates and maintains mass incarceration is an atmosphere wherein judges kind of lord over those
mm,
that they preside over, as opposed to recognizing their role as a public servant, right?
mm,
And so, how this actually plays out is at the time of sentencing. So I'll just talk to many of the folks. Say I have 18, 19, 20, 23, 25-year-old kids, right? And
mm,
that's what they are, right? Who have been in the juvenile system, who have had, no support systems, who have started selling drugs at 13, 14, 15 years
mhm,
old on their
mhm,
second and third possession with intent to deliver because they have 2 and 3 children that they got mouths to feed and a ninth grade education to try to feed them with. And so how that works is we first make them connect with our GED and high school diploma resources. We have Miss Lawrence, who is at Temple, who's been there for 40 years, that helps navigate them through their intake test and find the best program that works for them, right? We have high school diplomas, like Pastor Robinson runs a high school diploma program. The school district runs Twilight programs. So what we do is we create resources in all the typical areas that
mm,
people in the criminal justice system need. They need
mm,
mental health resources for traumatic injury, for post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and then all the way up to schizophrenia and more serious mental health issues. So we need to make sure that they have mental health resources. We need to make sure they have drug treatment resources. We need to make sure that once they have stabilized their mental health and drug treatment, then we work on vocational training to get them. They could be an entrepreneur. Listen, a lot of these kids on the corners, they're frustrated entrepreneurs, and we can get them to change their product.
mhm,
We wouldn't have
mhm,
to put them in jail. We would call them innovators at that point, as opposed to criminals, right?
mhm,
And so what that looks like is the problem in the criminal justice, as I saw it when I was creating the program, is that there seems to be this impetus on cookie cutter justice, right? They seem to want to have a system of trying to treat everybody with the same kind of crime the same way, but we're all as individual as our fingerprints, as the snowflakes out there. And so cookie cutter justice doesn't work. When you apply a generalized rule to the individual, except for the motivated individual that's going to make the best of whatever situation they get, except for that motivated person, you're basically you're doomed to fail by providing generalized dispositions for individuals, right? Because everybody's different. So the process looks like at sentencing, making sure that the sentencing sheet gets filled out, where you find out what's going on with that individual. How old are you? How far did you go in school? Do you have any skills to speak of? Do you have any kids to speak of? Do you have stable housing? Do you have a stable income? So you start off with finding out what's going on with the individual, and particularly in light of the crime that they commit. If it's possession with intent to deliver, it's either a drug addiction situation, a broke situation, or a combination of the two. If you have somebody that has, aggravated assaults, many times that's a mental health issue, right? That they just, snap and the persons around them catch it, right? And so the process is to figure out why that person has offended. Look, sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes the answer is this person is offending because they're so damaged that they enjoy it. When you get to that answer, you lock them up, right? But if that's not the answer, then you give them resources to give them an opportunity to reimagine their life. What if you weren't a drug addict? What if you didn't sell drugs? What if what if you didn't steal cars? What if you did finish school? So you give them the power to reimagine their lives with the resource, the cost-free resource that enables them to move forward. And critically thereafter, the status listing is intended. You can't give people a bunch of resources and just tell them to go do better when they have no idea how to do it, right? They don't know what it means to get up every day and to be focused on any particular issue. And so you have to slowly but surely guide them through it. And I'll give you a perfect example. You might run across somebody who just don't want to do anything, right? But they're not a violent person. So I'll require them to, maybe go to their high school, get their high school diploma, and then they can get into a great program called Power Core that pays them to figure out what they want to do. And then they move them in the next field, which is foundation. And they actually start to then give them a skill. And then they move to fellowship, where they're actually in the field of the skill they learn, so that they can find employment. It's a pipeline to city jobs many times. It's a pipeline to various family income sustaining kinds of jobs, right? And so what we need to do at that point is basically chart the path for that individual. But say they come the first time after sentencing and they haven't done anything. They're not interested in any of the programs you're talking about. They want to just get back out on the street and do this, that, and the other. So the first time you wag your finger, you lecture them a bit, you tell them your intention, but you let them know that if they don't move forward, that there will be a consequence, because you don't issue suggestions on the bench. You issue court orders. So you don't have a choice not following them without consequences. You can choose not to follow them. I tell people all the time, I can issue a million orders up here. I can't make you follow them. I can only make you sorry when you don't, right? So the second time they come through, haven't done anything at all, I push restart. If I put them on 3 years of reporting probation and now we're 4 months into it and they haven't done anything, well, you haven't done anything. So I'm going to find them in technical violation. I push restart and I resentence them to the same 3 years of reporting probation. If they come back and still have made no efforts, now they've made some efforts, you give them a little grace. But if they've made no efforts at all, as if to say, I have no interest in getting my high school diploma, I have no interest in staying off the corner, I have no interest in doing any of these things in this comprehensive plan, then I sentence them to 30 to 60 days of in custody. And I resentence that person that has the 3-year sentence. I would then sentence them to 30 to 60 days, followed by 2 years and 10 months of probation. And then I would keep them in there for 1 week, not the 30 to 60 days, right? Because 30 to 60 days, human beings have a way of adjusting to their environment. And once they've adjusted to their environment of being in jail, they go back to, I don't care. They go back to throwing their hands up, and you really can't reach them, right? But in just 7 days, that person's back is still hurting from sleeping on that slab instead of their bed. And so I bring them, it's only happened twice. And they come out and I say, sir, ma'am, how was your week? Did you enjoy this last week? Because the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has a lot more accommodations just like that for you. Now, you want to go finish doing your 30 to 60 days, or are you ready to start doing what I tell you to do? And I usually don't have any problem getting effort out of them at that point. And so then they'll get their high school diploma. Many of these kids they'll get their high school diploma. You can't get in the Power Corps without a high school diploma. So you got to first get them a temp job to put a few dollars in their pocket while they're working on a high school diploma. Then you get them in the Power Corps. Power Corps is now paying them $750 every 2 weeks just to show up and take care of themselves. And then when they get into foundation, now it's $900 every 2 weeks. And now they're well into some sort of vocation of their choosing, right? So when you finish trust, when you get your soft skills, like your resume, if you have trauma needs, trauma counseling, they do that. If you have drug treatment needs, they refer you there. They do all of the soft skills and all of the impediments to being productive. And then they give them an opportunity to apply for a foundation for masonry work, solar panel installation work, landscaping stuff, forestry kind of services. And then they get paid $900 a month to start working in whatever field they've chosen. So that's also very important too, to present choices so they can make a decision on which way they want to take their lives. And then they begin to learn about that and show that they can be there on a daily basis. And so I had just last week, this young man did so well in trust and came in foundation and was like stellar that they skipped most of foundation and put him right into fellowship because he was a real go-getter. And now he's on the track for a city job in the water department or streets department. And he was 18 or 19 when he first started under my supervision. He's now 21 or 22. He got his high school diploma. He's got skills, and he's about ready to start working for the city in a matter of a couple of months. And when he gets that city job and holds it for 6 months, I'll take time off his probation and I'll terminate him. I don't need him to stay on probation if he no longer is in a desperate situation where he's likely to reoffend. And so there's built-in ways of making sure that people moving in the right directions don't have to stay on probation, but folks not moving in the right directions, they have to go at the pace that they're ready to go at.
Yeah, so obviously, you're very intentional about all of the aspects of serving folks. Can you talk a little bit about how exactly your office does this? Do you have staff that help people connect to these resources and stay in touch with them? And so it's a two-part question. How does your office do this? And how could other judges find out how to do something similar if they're interested?
I love that question. So the program is resource-based sentencing and supervision. This is the whole binder. This is what the judge will get, right? And inside this, the Sentencing Foundation is responsible to keep this program updated. So whatever judge wishes to run the program, the reentry resource network that is used is in the book. And so the Sentencing Foundation does all the heavy lifting. They give you the forms that you need to use. They give you the reentry resources that are being passed out in the room. When they find a resource that's not working well, we remove it from the list. We find out one that's working well that we haven't heard of, we add it to the list. It is an ever changing a list of resources to find the most efficacious reentry resource, and only those resources that are being responsive, respectful, and delivering the service they say they're going to deliver actually maintain residency on that network. And any judge that has an interest in running this program, you only need to go to sentencingfoundation.org. You go to that website, you reach out if you have a question, and within 24 hours, you will get a response. Or if you're sold immediately, You go on the website, you fill out the registration form. The registration form comes to us. Judicial outreach will reach out to you and then begin to create the binder for your jurisdiction. It might take a few weeks for us to get a full reentry resource network put together, because we have to contact resources, we have to vet them, find out what services they render, make sure that it's a holistic network that includes mental health and drug treatment and vocational training and employment opportunities and, housing and all of the things that are barriers to people having basic necessities to have the space to make the right decisions. And so the Sentencing Foundation, that's why we created it, does all the heavy lifting, including every other month. We have judicial training so that when they begin to run the program, we create community with all of the judges, because many judges are in jurisdictions that they don't get supports to do stuff like this, right? And so instead, you get people that get on the bench that have all of this energy of wanting to help folks. And then when they don't get the support from their colleagues or from their judicial administrators, they eventually subliminally get beat back into the habits of doing what people are already doing, right? They don't want to ruffle feathers, and they don't want to create waves. So eventually, not being supported over time beats them back to just doing the same old things that's been done. And so the Sentencing Foundation is there to support judges, to keep them passionate, to keep them motivated, to give them the support to continue to help people and not revert back to just sentencing people in accordance with the sentencing guidelines, irrespective of their individual circumstances. The sentencing guideline is a starting place. You say, okay, people generally with this offense gravity score and this prior record score have these sentencings that happen. And that's a starting point when you look at sentencing guidelines. Then you have to superimpose over those sentencing guidelines the individual in front of you. Is that person doing this for nefarious reasons because they just like hurting folks? Or is this person desperate, resourceless, undereducated, underemployed, and just making bad choices, right? If it's the latter person, resource-based sentencing and supervision is there to help you. If it's the former person, then you don't apply resource-based sentencing and supervision for that nefarious person that you know is just there to hurt folks. I just recently sentenced somebody to 15 to 30 years plus 15 years of probation if they get out after the 15 to 30 I gave them, right? Why? Because he groomed an 8-year-old over a period of 5 years, showed no remorse as he changed his child's life and sexually assaulted her in a very methodical way that showed me no remorse whatsoever, right? That person, I looked at him and said, sir, I believe in second chances, but I don't have a program for you, sir. You're going to jail, right? And so that's part of that 10 to 15% I was talking about earlier. That percentage of folks, you do what you have to do to protect society. You lock them up. But if they're not doing it out of some nefarious intention that enjoys causing pain to people, if they're doing it just because they just don't know any better, but would do better if they knew better, you have to help them know better. And you have to give them the resource to give them the opportunity to do better.
I think that when you first started answering the question, you talked about getting the resources within a particular jurisdiction. That is immense. That is immense. I know how much effort has to be put into and how much you have to research all of the resources in a community. So this is a tremendous resource. And then I think also important in what you said that I want to highlight is creating community for judges. I think that's so important because, and not that you don't know because you've done it, but for community to support and help people stay engaged and help people to feel like they belong as a part of this movement, I think. And I don't know if you would characterize it as a movement, but it feels like it is to me. Yeah, I
It
think
most
it's
certainly is.
amazing. I think it's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about what's on the horizon for you over the next 12 months?
Oh, I couldn't wait. So we actually, so how this works right now in terms of it being a movement, we need to have an amalgamation of like-minded judges, not folks that we're trying to convince this is the right way. I don't have time for them. I don't have time for people I have to convince this is the right way. People that already know that this is the right way. We need to get an amalgamation of judges that are running this program in unison, supporting each other, and the ripple effect. If I could get them just to have half of the experiences that I'm having in my courtroom, the ripple effect will then get out to the public. And then the public will start to demand this of their judges, right? When people are lawyers trying to become judges, people should be asking questions like, well, if you wind up on the criminal bench, will you run resource-based sentencing and supervision and be affiliated with the Sentencing Foundation? These are the things that we need to have as intrinsic to that walk to the bench so that we can have that paradigm shift in how judges sentence and supervise. And so having just gotten our nonprofit status in February of last year, so it's just a little over a year, right now we have 18 registered judges in 8 jurisdictions. 4 of our jurisdictions are already running. That's Philadelphia, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, already running. Judges that are registered and waiting for their binders are in Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Fargo, North Dakota, and New Rochelle, New York. And so what's on the horizon is we are connected with a couple of things I want to remind me to tell you about the huge endeavor of getting these resources. We are absolutely blessed to have a board member, Asada Thomas, who is the director of reentry services for the city of Philadelphia, and her entire career has been spent dealing with reentry resources and being able to vet and observe and identify efficacious reentry resources. And so she is tasked with making sure that we have all of these standard operating procedures to get these resources up and running, hopefully sooner than we have been, because we have more interns that are coming in, and so we're in the process of training them to be able to engage in this vetting process, and we expect to gear it up. So now, moving forward, we are connected with the Department of Justice, Judge Friedman, who is appointed by Biden to head a newly created department within the Department of Justice. I don't know the exact acronym or name, but loosely it is Innovative Judicial Programs aimed at criminal justice reform. And so she came from DC and sat in my courtroom and watched me run resource-based sentencing and supervision, and she was head over heels about it. And that was when we talked about the need for there being a community that supports judges who want to do differently and want to support better, but get beaten down by not getting the support from their colleagues. And we wanted to create this community. And so she had talked about the Department of Justice on the Department of Justice dime, by invitation only, creating judges that are like-minded. And there is a conference that she is putting together, and I'm lucky to be part of her. I guess she's asked for my input, right? It's her program. She's the DOJ. I'm not, but I'm lucky enough to be amongst the people that she is asking for input. And there is a conference that is scheduled for us to attend in DC in May 16th and 17th. And so there'll probably be 6 to 10 of my judges. Well, I won't say my judges, but the judges registered with the Sentencing Foundation that run the program will be there. And so she's expecting to invite 75 to 100 judges throughout the nation that are like-minded, and getting us all in the same room. And while there are many sessions with panel discussions and things that are important to know about how to do things differently, we, resource-based sentencing and supervision, have the only designated session that's just about the Sentencing Foundation and resource-based sentencing supervision. And so those that know me know if you sit me in a room full of 100 judges that are like-minded, I'm walking out with 50 of them on my team. And so over the summer, we expect, well, not 50, because there will be some judges that are already the Sentencing Foundation judges there, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 more judges we expect to acclimate over the summer after this event. And we hope by, not hope, God willing, we know that by Labor Day, we will, instead of being in 8 jurisdictions with 18 judges, we will be in 20 to 25 jurisdictions with 50 to 75 judges by Labor Day. And so then we, from there, will be a true national organization. And by next year, which is what I'm extremely excited about, we will finally, the Sentencing Foundation was established in 22, we will have 3 years of 990s, which will allow us to then go after the renewable kinds of funding. And again, as a sitting judge, I don't have anything to do with that, but we have our CFO, Robert Williams, who is heading all of that information and making sure all of that is moving forward in accordance with the Sentencing Foundation and the working board that we have, the plan that we have. We have a very dynamic board that includes Councilman Isaiah Thomas, who is the author of the groundbreaking legislation called the Driving Equity Bill. And we have, as I said, Asada Thomas, that is the head of our echelon for creating the resources networks that we are using. Of course, we have our CFO, Robert Williams, who's been in this kind of a nonprofit space throughout the city of Philadelphia, and his expertise is, of course, accounting and masters in international taxation and things of that nature. That's why he's our CFO. We have our great thinkers that are our data collection team, because we're trying to be able to get the empirical and episodical data so that we can give it to our grant writing and our fundraising team, so that we can have the kinds of statistics that will help us with the 3 years of 990 go after the kinds of funds that will make this actually reach where we want to go. So this year coming up is very exciting indeed. We expect that this will be a national movement by the end of the year, when we have 20 to 25 jurisdictions and 50 to 75 judges. We would expect that a lot of movement will be made in the fall and the winter. And by February of 25, when we have 3 years of 990s, we will aggressively be able to go into getting the logistical support that we need to actually make this movement come to fruition. It is a clear, I mean, I see the vision coming together before my very eyes. And this is something that I've been working on for the last 10 years of my life. So it's very exciting seeing it actually coming to fruition right before my eyes.
Well, this work is transformative. It is absolutely a movement, and I'm so honored that you would take a few moments to talk to us about your work. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I absolutely love being here, and I gotta say, I gotta do a little shout out to you personally, in the work that you do at DBHIDS and how you've helped to support our movement. Because what's important is what we have created here in Philadelphia. We need for every jurisdiction that begins to run this program to develop in the same way that we have, i.e., having connections with the local municipalities, social services, having some of your resources that are in the prisons so we can start those comprehensive plans before they get out, so they hit the ground running. The things that we know work here, having the resource networking events so resources can work together, because every resource doesn't do everything. So everything that the prototype is what we created in Philadelphia, getting it to be in every jurisdiction in the same way that we're able to operate it in Philadelphia. That is the goal, and that is the plan.
Thank you so much, Judge Sawyer. Really appreciate your work. And we will put information in the notes of how folks can find out more about the Sentencing Foundation. So thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Just go to the sentencingfoundation.org. Have a terrific day, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Judge Sawyer.
Bye-bye.